Andy Edwards. Never heard of him.
You guys love an overrated list, don't you? You love an overrated list. And I tell you why you love it. Because you don't understand what the word overrated is. At least some of you don't. Some of you out there have command of the English language. And to you, you will get this. But other people watching this don't seem to quite understand what I'm saying. So for those who don't understand what I'm saying, to stop you, put a comment on this video where I will have to then follow it up by really saying, can't you just watch the video again? Because I think there's subtleties here that you're not quite getting. There's certain points where I'm talking and I'm saying what I think. There's other points where I'm being sarcastic or having a sense of humour. Now, I quite enjoy the fact that there's a whole bunch of people out there that don't get that, but it is a little bit of a problem for my channel. So here we are in one of those videos where it's going to be all mixed up like that, and some of you won't know when I'm saying something that's just to make you laugh, or I'm saying what I really believe. Who knows what the truth is on a video like this? The 10 most overrated musicians in music history. You love it, even though you don't really know, or some of you don't really know what overrated means. So I'm going to explain it again at the beginning of the video, right? Some of these musicians on this list I absolutely love. They make some of my favourite music. They make great music. But from a skill level or a technical level or a feel level, which are the three components we've got here, these musicians are not as good as their fan base thinks. Their fan base has elevated them up to a position where they're almost worshipped, and people will say this is the greatest guitarist or this is the greatest drummer, when in fact from a skill level they're actually quite average. I'm a professional musician. I play many instruments. I have some knowledge of how to play instruments, and the layman doesn't, I'm afraid. And sometimes they will see something that they think is impressive when they don't really know. This is really the truth. I'm telling the truth of what these videos are about. They are trying to expose the difference between the listener who loves the music and the musician who knows about the music. Okay? So, the other day, I'm going to try to explain this in other terms, right? The other day, I had a problem with my shower. I switched my shower on, and then when I switched it off, it wouldn't switch off. And so my shower had to run for 2 days straight until I could get a plumber in. Now, I tried to fix that shower myself, but the problem is I don't know about showers. I'm not a plumber. I tried all sorts of things and they didn't work. You know why? Because I don't know about showers. I thought I might. I even switched off the power and everything. I tried everything I could do thinking that it might work, but it didn't work. Now, plumbers out there will be going, bloody hell, this is obvious. How can Andy not know that? The reason I don't know that is because I'm not a plumber. Right? And the same thing happens with music, okay? The same thing happens with music. And the reason why these videos are popular is because you've got one set of the audience, probably musicians, laughing because they know that this stuff is true, whereas the audience get all wound up because rather than just going, I love the music, I don't really know about the technique or the skill or any of that, and I don't really care. I think the guy's really skillful, and he probably is skillful, but our fan base elevating them up to be the greatest in the world might be a little bit over the top. It might be a little bit inaccurate. But so what? Does it really matter if these musicians are overrated? No. But what we can do is get a greater understanding of where their greatness lies and why they are great. And in that, we will then understand what makes music great. Because, of course, skill, virtuosity, proficiency, and even feel do not make music great. It is something far more mysterious. Now, with the serious bit out the way, because this is going to be my platonic overrated, because we're not doing overrated guitarists, we're not doing overrated bass players or keyboardists. This is the 10 most overrated musicians that I love. but they're overrated. And who are they overrated by? By you! That's the introduction over, 4 minutes. Ugh. I know what's going to happen. This video go up, it'll do really well. And then when I ask YouTube, you know, why it did well, they go, because your audience liked this subject matter and more people clicked through when they saw the thumbnail. And then it'll say, but a lot of people switched off with your long introduction at the beginning. They don't like that. I think you need to get to the actual meat of the video quicker, Mr. Edwards. And I feel like going, bloody hell, yeah, maybe they'd stick around, but maybe they don't understand the bloody creative work I'm doing here and how important my introductions are. And maybe the proper quality viewers of this channel appreciate the introductions more than the actual listing itself. The real meat and potatoes, the real bloody worth in my videos is at the bloody beginning and the end. It's like a beginning and end goodness sandwich with just shite packed in the middle to draw you in. Are you ready for the shite? Let the shite commence. At number 10, I have, right, John Mayer. John Mayer, for me, is like if IKEA created a blues musician, it would be John Mayer. Think about it, people. Think about it. He has a huge fan base, doesn't he, out there? So many people out there absolutely love him. What do they love him for? Do they love him for his incredible guitar playing and his blues feel? Or maybe it's his cheekbones and sort of boyish good looks, his lovely little voice where he sings about love and nice things and never rocks the boat too much, right? Now, at the moment, I'm going through a bit of a blues phase. In the car, I've got a whole bunch of CDs. Lonnie Johnson, Robert Johnson, all the Johnsons are there, you know. Well, not all the Johnsons are there, you know. There's not Van Johnson, the film star that has sort of... Everyone's forgotten about Van Johnson, haven't they? I do believe he didn't have a first name, Van Johnson. It was just Van Johnson, you know. But there's all sorts of Johnsons out there. But there's many Johnsons in the world of blues. Robert Johnson's, Tommy Johnson, a whole host of them. And many blues players have exciting names, don't they? Like Lightning or Blind, if they're blind. And when you go and put those records on, those proper blues records, what do you get? You get some dangerous guy that you feel that would probably pull a knife on you if you were to cross them in a way. You know, you shouldn't cross them. Ladies, men, you know, with not much time to live, they're living on the edge, you know. They know by the time they get to 27, it's over for them. And there they are wandering around, drinking too heavily, womanizing, and singing songs about this. And what do they want to do? They either want to tell you how good in bed their women are, boasted about them, or they want to kill them because they've done something that they didn't like, right? There's various other subject matter of early blues, all sorts of things, you know, selling your soul to the devil, being damned. It's all there in early blues. And so when the electric blues emerges with Muddy Waters, then we get B.B. King, T-Bone Walker. These are dangerous guys stalking the stage, aren't they? With their stinging notes, right? Their biting tone. You know, when they play the blue note, that blue note is rooted in an actual suffering, but also an actual danger. These are dangerous musicians. In the 1960s, middle-class white people get hold of it, and suddenly Eric Clapton's in there doing it. And they think they're very good at it, but then the real deal turns up, doesn't he? Jimi Hendrix turns up in London, and he's playing it, and he's doing all that stuff, you know. Of course, once he starts doing it, he don't last 27, he's gone. But there you get a slow slide, don't you, through maybe Stevie Ray Vaughan, Robert Cray, Jeff Healey, Johnny Lang, and there has been an increasing commercialisation, a desanitization. Those great big that those blues men have had that really provided the juices of the blues, the essential juices. Well, they've been cut off, haven't they? They've been cut off and fed to the mass media machine. And when you mince all those... This is terrible stuff, Andy. Where's this all coming from? It's because you've been listening to all those blues records. It's been, you know, it's been influencing you, hasn't it, in a terrible way? Now you've got to tick the box that says there's offensive material on here. Maybe we could get away with it. And also, you mentioned in the colour as well. And I mean, why are you talking about it like this? But anyway, if you were to take all bloody hell. If you were to take all this stuff, I don't want to talk about it now. Where I was going was a terrible place I was going with then. I was channeling something then. You know what I was channeling? Something that John Mayer never bloody channels, doesn't he? No, there he sits, all prettified, playing his nice tasteful licks, all practiced. You know, he's a great musician, right? Is he a good blues guitarist? Yeah, he's good. He ain't Joe Bonamassa, is he? And Joe Bonamassa ain't really Stevie Ray Vaughan, is he? And Stevie Ray Vaughan ain't really Albert King. There's a diminishment all the way down. There's always been, that music has always been de-bollocked. That's the only way I can say what is missing from John Mayer. What is missing from him? Why is it that people love him and he sells millions of records? I'm sure the musicians here who watch this and the people who watch this channel, you're all in agreement. Oh, John Mayer is not that overrated. Nobody really likes. They love him. People love this bloke. He goes out, he's got bloody Steve Jordan on drums doing incredible grooves. Everyone's provided it for him. And then he's got feel. I'm not saying it's all very pretty, it's all very nice. And you might say, well, wasn't Eric Clapton like that? No, because Eric Clapton was a heroin addict that then came out and said all that racist stuff while off his head drunk, right? And has had to pay for it ever since. Right, and he's lived in bloody purgatory, and then he had to bloody have his child drop out of a bloody window and write a song about it. And it's like, John Mayer's never done anything like that. Eric Clapton has lived the blues. Those original rock guys, Paul Kossoff, Peter Green, they all sacrificed themselves to it. They really did. They did live it, even though they were middle-class British people. They still had that danger there. John Mayer's got no bloody danger, not in any of him. Right? He's just a pretty boy. He's like the Johnny Depp of blues guitars. You know, when Johnny Depp goes out with his guitar, right, and he's got his Sauvage aftershave on, and he goes out in the desert, you know, and he's probably having to, like, repel a panther or whatever these people do on these sort of adverts. And there he is. And what's he trying to do? He gets his big guitar out, doesn't he? And he strums it, doesn't he? That Link Ray thing. Right? But it's just bloody, what is that? What's going on? What is going on? Right, we need the real deal. John Mayer, sling him, get rid of him, see through the man. He's overrated, right? And he's overrated because he's got no balls. Right. Number 9 on my list is from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea. Flea. Right. I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers a lot. Right, I do like them. But I can't help but think that there's so much wrong about them. Anthony Kiedis, I mean, he can't sing a note in tune, can he? And when he was young, he could take his shirt off and in some cases take all his clothes off and leap about looking like a great big girl. You know, sort of the funky reincarnation of Sue Tissue. Remember that girl from, what were they called? Backyard something, or some new wave band from the early 80s that had this singer, Sue Tissue. And she just stood there, not moving at all. But she looked like Anthony Kiedis. Well, at least Anthony Kiedis in the old days. Then she left that band and made a very beautiful minimalist piano album that I was listening to the other night and I was enjoying it very much. Then she disappeared off the face of the earth. And nobody knows what happened to her. I wonder whether she became Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's my theory. I've thrown that in here. But he can't sing a bloody note to save his life, can he? Hello, hello, must I try? Oh my God, awful, awful. So, he's not very good. Chad Smith, I like Chad Smith's drumming. I mean, he could be on the list. Back in the old days when we had magazines, in the UK we used to have a magazine called Rhythm Magazine, and on that list people could vote for their favourite funk drummer. Did Clyde Stubberfield or Jabbo Starks make the list? No. Did Zigaboo make the list? No. Did Mike Clark make the list or Harvey Mason? No. Did Bernard Purdie make the list? No. Who was the top funk drummer in the whole world? It was Chad Smith year after year, right? That's what I mean by overrated. And Chad could be here. Maybe he should have been here. But what perturbs me a lot is the way in which Flea has been elevated above the other guys in the band to becoming a bass icon. Now, I love Flea. That new album he's done is amazing, right? Victor Wooten couldn't make an album like that. Flea, in terms of being an artist, is the real deal. But as a bass player, yes, his playing has launched 1,000 bass players, right? But when you are with bass players, I've had this as a teacher, you know, these kids come in and they are ensconced in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the bass players, they think the ultimate thing would be able to play like Flea. Whereas in reality, what Flea does a lot of the time is just octaves up and down, which he's very, very good at. He's very, very good at that. But the idea that this guy is Jaco Pastorius or Jeff Berlin, you know, or John Patitucci is absolutely ridiculous. Now, you try getting that across to a 16-year-old kid who thinks that this is the ultimate in bass playing. Right, how do you weed them off it? Well, you have to then like try and get them onto Les Claypool from Primus. And once you've got them onto Les Claypool, then you might be able to weed them over to Jaco Pastorius. That's always the method I've used with these people. But as I said, you know, Flea, he's low on the list. He's low on the list because I think there's a lot of good things about him. But as a bass player, the general public think he's the best thing since sliced bread, and he's not. Whereas John Mayer's on the list, really, because he's just so insipid, right? It's different, you see. But they are low on the list. It's going to get more overrated as we go, and you are probably going to get more upset as the video moves forth. Right, at number 8, I've got the little fella himself, Prince. No way, I thought you loved Prince. I do love Prince. I think he's brilliant. How could you not? How could you say he's an overrated musician? He plays all the instruments, doesn't he? Well, you see, that's the thing, isn't it? I say I play all the instruments, right? But when I say I play all the instruments, do I really mean I can get by on all the instruments? Now, Stevie Wonder can play all the instruments, or does he just get by? But the thing with Stevie is when Stevie gets behind those drums, I don't want anybody else on those drums. When Stevie gets behind that keyboard, I don't want anyone else behind that keyboard. And when he starts doing his harmonica solo, he's about as good as it gets. He's the real deal. I ain't going to knock Stevie. He's not overrated. But Prince has been lauded as being this great instrumentalist. He plays 40 instruments. What does he play? Does he play saxophone? Never heard him play that. Right? Does he play the didgeridoo? Well, anyone can play a didgeridoo. That's just, you know, blowing a raspberry down a pipe. Anyone could do that. No, what we're talking about here is the fact that he plays a little bit of bass. He probably can play a little bit of piano, right? And he can play a little bit of drums. Now, I used to watch him when on Sign of the Times, when he takes over for Sheila E. And he does this big thing. It's amazing. He jumps on the drums and then he starts to play the drums. It's all right. There's nothing to write home about, and I tell you, he's a bit stiff. He hasn't got the feel. He hasn't got the feel on the drums. Now, as a bass player, I think he is best on bass. When he picks up the bass, he's a funky guy, and he plays the bass very well. He's good on the bass. But of course, it's not the bass we're here for, is it? It's his incredible guitar playing. Oh, Prince, he's up there. Go put it into AI, who are the 20 greatest guitarists? Prince comes up. Why? Because he can pull off an okay but messy Carlos Santana derived guitar solo, can't he? Right? Now, people will be saying, yeah, but have you seen him on that video where he gets up and does My Guitar Gently Weeps? I can't stick it. And that is really what changed my mind about his guitar playing. There he is, surrounded by the great and the good. You got Jeff Lynne up there, you know, all the hair and sunglasses. Darnie Harrison, he's playing the song that his dad wrote. They're all there playing this song. It ain't a tribute to Prince, is it? It's probably a tribute to George Harrison and the Beatles. And it's about the song. Jeff Lynne, he loves to do anything to do with the Beatles. He's always there. Right, so On the original, when they got Eric Clapton in, did Eric Clapton try and take it over and showboat? No, he just did what was required. But I feel as soon as Prince gets up there, he's got to take it over. It has to become the Prince show, doesn't he? So there he is with his Telecaster, walking forward and doing all this stuff. Now, I don't think the stuff's that good. It ain't bad. But I bet you the guitarist that sat in the background that you don't know, that's part of the band, would have been able to outplay Prince. But there he is showboating up front. Everyone's got a bit smile on their face, but I really believe he sabotaged that to put the light on him. And what's he going to put the light on? With a whole bunch of okay blues licks. Oh, he's this great musician with this great harmonic knowledge. Where's the jazz notes, Prince? But also, if you're going to play fast, not scruffy fast, please. We don't want scruffy fast. We want Al Di Meola fast. Or Alan Holdsworth fast. Not that scruffy fast playing you're doing. Get your bends in. And also your tone, mate. Right? Your tone. Proper guitarists work on their tone. That's what they're about. They get the right amp and guitar thing and they do it. I don't think Prince has ever had a good guitar tone ever. It always sounds like a bloody wasp in the jar at best, or some sort of thin cheese graty sound. No, he's not a great guitar player. He's a good guitar player for someone who can sing, but is he George Benson? No, he is not. He's not even John Mayer. Now, does that mean Prince's music's not amazing? Prince's music's amazing, but what he is an adequate musician that can get by on a lot of instruments, like myself. And am I on this list? No. Why? Because nobody rates me at all, do they? Right, let's move on to number 7. God, I can't stick this bloke. Tom Morello. Rage Against the Machine. What's he raging against, Tom Morello? What is he raging against? I'll tell you who he's raging against. Himself. Elitist bloody rock stars. I don't mind elitist rock stars sat at the top of the pile with their vast millions. Right, throwing their weight around because somebody wouldn't let them into some pizza place. This is what happened to Tom Morello, wasn't it? Big, you know. And what did he do when they wouldn't let him in for into this pizza place? Oh, he tried to bloody character assassinate the shop. Oh, I can't stick the bloke. You know, he used his status. He really tries his best to destroy somebody's bloody livelihood because they wouldn't let him in. And he thought it was wrong because he's Tom Morello. Right? And when I read that, you can Google that story about him trying to get into the bloody pizza place and not getting in. I ain't going to explain it in detail like a proper YouTuber. Now, I'm just going to show my disgust for him. Tom Morello. Now, Tom Morello, in an earlier life, was in a much normal sort of rock band where he did normal guitar solos. I've watched those videos. There's only one way to describe that: as shite. Why? Because he's got adequate technique, but absolutely no feel whatsoever. He can't bend a bloody string. He can't play properly. Now, you might say, yeah, but he counteracted that by you know, emulating hip hop on guitar. Well, I hate to say this to you chaps, right? Okay. Sticking a switch that switches your guitar off and on so you can get beep, 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 right? Or scratching your hand up and down to emulate scratching on a turntable. You know, all that bit. Or having a Digitech whammy pedal so you can hit it down and go wee, wee, right? Anybody can do. Yeah, but Andy, he was the first to do it. Just because you're first to do it doesn't mean it's good, right? I've got mates that were the first to do certain things, you know. I had a mate at school that collected for 2 weeks all the farts into a biscuit tin and then gave it to his nan at Christmas as a joke, right? He may well have been the first person to do that, but I'm pretty sure now I mentioned it, everyone was saying, you know, but no, not just 1 or 2 farts, it was a continual amount of farts that he collected in this big biscuit tin. Now, he showed resourcefulness in thinking that up as an idea, I'll give him that, you know, but I don't think he should be getting any plaudits for coming up with that. No, I don't. And neither should Tom Morello for coming up with... Now we all love Rage Against the Machine, don't we? In small doses. Have you ever put the album on? You do, you love it, don't you? The drums, And then, you know, the bloke comes on, I'm a posh kid and my mum and dad are educated. I had an education. I don't like the rich people. I'm going to rap all about it. Pen that I am like a communist, like Che Guevara. You know, he comes out doing all that bit, you know, with his dreadlocks, you know, and all that bit. I can't stand them. You know, I'm not going to be... Right, I loved that album when it came out, right? There could have been 5 minutes where what they were saying was justified. You know, before they got famous, it was justified. But what were they aiming at when they signed a record deal? What they wanted to do was to suck on the great capitalist nipple, didn't they? More than any of us. More than any of us. They didn't bloody turn away the money. They didn't turn away the fame. They didn't turn away all the appearances in mainstream media. And because the mainstream media love a lefty, they're everywhere. Tom Morello's got it in bucket loads, right? A modicum of talent spread wide because he is willing to chat the establishment view. A stooge. He's a stooge for the very machine that he's angry about, like Tom Morello. I can't bloody stick him. Right, now it starts to get contentious, right? And some of these I say myself, I don't like the fact I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it. And this is what we've got at number 6 now. These next two are I'm really going to upset me saying this. So at number 6, I've got, right, I know this is wrong, and I love the bloke, and I've got albums by him, and I love him. I'm going to have to try and explain to you why I love him, but why he's overrated. It is the guitarist, Buckethead. So as I say, you know I'm right. Don't you? Yeah, but he's really fast and he plays all these fast angular things really, really fast. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He does. But not like Sean Lane. Poor old Sean Lane, right? Too fat to get behind one of them bloody white hockey masks or whatever it is, the Buckethead, you know. Too fat. That was Sean Lane's problem. Poor bloke. You know. I'm sure if you go around to his house, there was a lot of bloody KFC buckets empty around his house. He could have stuck it on his head. But he didn't want to, did he? Not Sean Lane. No, he was too much of a guitar genius to do that. Now, of all the things that Sean Lane did as a guitar genius, there was a tiny little wing where he took these sort of great big symmetrical shapes, you know, minor thirds and major thirds between his fingers, and he would pick them and move them around the guitar and create all these abstract shapes. And I'm pretty sure that influenced Buckethead. And Buckethead was very, very good at that, you know. Now, we have to be honest, and I've got so many Buckethead albums. When he's not doing that UFO taking off sound really fast, you know, which it sounds like the same lick to me over and over again, but that's by the by. When he's not doing that, the rest of the guitar playing is awful. The guy has no sense of harmony. He has no sense of nice notes or where they rely. His tone is not very nice. He tends to, you know, fanny about, you know, when he's playing slow in a way which is quite awful. So yes, he can terrorise us with these fast bits. Now, of course, we know the reason why he's famous is because all the old nunchucks and the white face and the bucket on the head and the hair and all that type of stuff. He's funny and he's weird and he's strange and there's a vibe about him that's great, and that is what I like. I like what he represents, right? But I have to say, I have spent too long pretending that his actual guitar playing is any good. On all the albums I've got him on, I actually think he was detrimental in what he was doing. And so he was brought in often like a stock character to supply something which was like, oh, this is heavy metal, this is what the kids like, let's stick it into this context. Bill Laswell's at fault with this. Always, you know, trying to put the wrong people with the wrong people and pass it off. And sometimes it works, you know. This is going to affect the next guy on the list as well, a guy that actually is associated with Buckethead. But we'll stick with Buckethead a little bit more before I move on. But yeah, I've spent too much time listening to his guitar playing and wincing at his actual guitar solos, right? Now, when he came out, there was a raft of guitar players that they could have also put in that context. Greg Howe, Vinnie Moore, Richie Kotzen, incredible players doing very similar things. And I would have loved to see them jamming with Pharaoh Saunders or Derek Bailey. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it? But no, it was always Buckethead, wasn't it? Always Buckethead, right? How many albums has he made? God, he could take on John Frusciante to the amount of albums he's made. He's made thousands and thousands. Why? Because it's all shite. It's musically all shite. I have to say this. When I put on the debut Praxis album, it's a masterpiece. But Buckethead exists in it. He just exists in it. And I just feel if they'd had somebody else in there, it would have elevated it. There is a lack of musicality in Buckethead's playing. It's only my opinion. This is quite serious here. And I go against my gut. They aren't the gut, aren't they? That's my chest. I go against my gut feelings here, which is to love Buckethead. I've got so many albums by him. But I have to say what I see, or at least say what I hear. Does anyone agree with that? You know, really, is he really? I mean, and then there's the stint in Guns N' Roses. What the hell's that about? You know, which has probably set him up for life. If he hadn't have had that, we probably wouldn't have heard him, and he would have had to get a job. You know, so there he is, sat in his big house, doing whatever he wants to do. Right? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of guitarists, I feel like, for example, Bumblefoot. Now, there's a guitar player. Yeah, Buckethead, I don't know. What he does do is an amalgamation of other guitar players. And what he doesn't do is actually play the guitar well from a basic standpoint. Right, let's move on to number 5. This is even worse. It just gets worse and worse. Right, there's some of these I love to be the iconoclast and pull them down, but with this guy I don't want to, because he's so full of life and love and happiness. Why would you want to pick on this bloke? At number 5 I've got Bootsy Collins. Oh, Bootsy's amazing. Oh, he's amazing. What do you think of Bootsy Collins? Oh, he's amazing. Like this is what you'll hear. There's nobody in the world who's ever going to go, don't like Bootsy Collins. I love Bootsy Collins. I got those albums. They're amazing. The albums are amazing. He's amazing. As soon as he appears, my name is Bootsy Collins. You know, he's funky. He's funky embodied. It's not George Clinton. George Clinton is the mastermind of funk. Right? But the guy that embodied funk was Bootsy Collins, right? And he's a decent bass player from a funk point of view, right? Is he the funkiest bass player of all time? No. It's quite simple, he's just not. That's probably Paul Jackson in the Headhunters, right? But he can play a bit, he's okay. A little bit of slapping, not brilliant. Finger stuff, not brilliant. It's a bit heavy-handed for me. But all of that, when he's got the big glasses on and he's doing all that, it's all good, right? But he's okay. But no one's going to say that, are they? Right? It's like the Emperor's New Clothes. You're not allowed to say, yeah, he's okay. He's an okay funk bass player. What about as a just standard functional bass player? Well, I don't know. How can you say, Andy? How can you say Bootsy Collins is not the funkiest bass player in the world? Because he's not. Paul Jackson, Verdine White from Earth, Wind and Fire. Now that is a funky bass player, right? Marcus Miller, he's bloody funky. When it comes to slapping, Marcus is funky. I can go on and on and on. Bass players that are immensely funky, okay? Now, that's not enough for him to be on the list, okay? Even though we know everybody in the world loves him, heavy metalers love him, classical people love him, everybody loves Bootsy. That's the way it is. Everybody loves Bootsy, all right? I don't want you to stop loving Bootsy, but we got to see that he is just an icon. You just bring him out and he goes, oh, not a bit of party. You know, and he does that, and he's got his big star bass, you know, like that. But the other guy that played a bass a little bit like that was Gene Simmons, and I feel that Bootsy to funk is what Gene Simmons is to rock, i.e. shite. Now, the thing that really bugs me about Bootsy is that sometimes people go to Bootsy as though he has a secret of the funk. Right, this has become almost like a part of culture. Because what Bootsy knows about is the one. And the one was taught him by James Brown. Bootsy Collins sat at the foot like that bloke in Kung Fu when he went to see the one with the white beardy face. You know that one? And he sat and James Brown said, Bootsy, I'm going to show you the secret of the funk. It's the one. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And so now there's a million videos, and I saw Bootsy the other day and he's like 70 odd. You can't tell because he's still got the bloody wig on, he's got the big hat, he's got the big glasses, he's got all the glittery clothes, he's still there being Bootsy. And he's going, yeah man, you just got to put it on the one. So you go, oh, and you're, as I say all that, you're going, yeah, but that does sound funky, what you just did there, Andy. That one thing works, doesn't it? No, it's got nothing to do with it. Right, it's got nothing to do with it. You can take the one out of it. Did it. Funk 16th note syncopation with a slight swingy feel. That's what the funk is. You can put the one in a funky way, right? But classical music can put something on. Any music can put something on the one, can't they? Anybody can do it. In the days of my youth. Let's put it on the one, isn't it? You know, bloody War Pigs. I mean, that's ripped off that bloody... They bloody Black Sabbath didn't half rip off Led Zeppelin on that first album. It's all over the place. You just don't notice it. One, 2, 3, 4, and Bootsy, I put it on the one. No, Bootsy, you got the wrong pattern. This is Black Sabbath, but they're putting it on the one. So why isn't it funky? Because putting it on the one doesn't make it funky. He's only saying that, so he's got some shtick. We've got to bloody burst the bubble. Why have you got to burst the bubble, Andy? Can't you just let people go on thinking that the funk is about putting it on the one? Even though nobody does that, except for a few Parliament and a few bloody James Brown albums, tracks. Where's the one in One Nation Under a Groove? One Nation Under a Groove, getting down just for the funk of it. Where's the one? They're not doing the one, they're doing the two. Bootsy Collins, yes, he's on the bloody overrated list. This is terrible. Right, now it gets bad. And we get the usual suspects here. Right, who've I got at number 4? Well, we just did him, didn't we? John Bonham. John Bonham. I have to watch this because I used to play for Robert Plant, didn't I? I've mentioned it. We are 40 minutes in. I just mentioned it. I've got John Bonham's bloody drum edit over in the back there somewhere. I really have. I could get it out and impress you, but I've done it so many times before and you're not impressed, are you? Why are you not impressed? Because you don't really care, do you? You don't really care, do you? Right? You just want to say it, don't you? You just want to say, oh, John Bonham, the greatest rock drummer of all time. Well, maybe you think he is, right? Maybe it's all subjective. Maybe there's no greatest rock drummer. Maybe Meg White is just as good as John Bonham, but it's not the case, is it? Meg White is not as good as John Bonham. Can we just get this straight, right? In a world where you can imagine that that's true, in a world where we sort of negotiate with each other, and enough people come and say, yeah, I don't think Meg White is in the John Bonham category. Imagine that world where it's not all subjective, where there is some objectivity based upon a sort of aesthetic agreement, and that aesthetic agreement is a negotiation between human beings. And once we've got that negotiated agreement of what is beautiful or ugly, we then can base our morality on it. And once we've got that as a moral base, then we can create a society that holds together, right? And it might not hold together completely, but we do need to have a sort of, at least an approach of objectivity when it comes to good or bad. So there is this idea. And I think John Bonham's a bloody good rock drummer. Amazing. He's great. I love him. He's influenced me so much. Led Zeppelin, my favourite band. I went through every single beat. I wanted to sound like John Bonham. I loved his sound. Where's his sound come from? He doesn't sound like a lot of the other rock drummers. I'll tell you where his sound comes from. Buddy Rich. That snare drum sound, the bass drum sound, the tom-tom sounds, it's Buddy Rich. It's not him. Now, if someone was saying Buddy Rich was the greatest drummer of all time, I probably wouldn't argue with that. I don't think Buddy Rich is overrated. He's not on the list, right? So I'm not just an iconoclast for no reason. So why am I picking on John Bonham here? I'll tell you why. Because I don't believe he's the greatest rock drummer that ever lived. I think he was a great rock drummer, and he had his strengths. His strengths were his ability to create signature drum parts within Led Zeppelin. He had a very idiosyncratic approach to the one, where he never would bloody play the one. He was always going beyond the one or before the one. I love that. And he had an incredible sound. The incredible sound was a lot down to Jimmy Page's and the engineers of, Glyn Johns and Andy Johns and whoever it was that would do those albums, utilisation of the room sound, which gave him a huge, great sound. When you listen to something like Kashmir, or When the Levee Breaks, I'm pretty sure anybody behind the kit, as long as they had reasonable feel, with that sound, could have pulled that part off. It's a lot more to do with production, and other rock drummers at the time didn't have that production. Now, John Bonham, you'll say he's got incredible technique. Well, I don't think he has as a drummer. I think he's got a good right hand. His left hand's not that strong. Obviously, his right foot is very strong, but I don't believe he's as strong as Ian Pace's right foot. So when we start to compare him to the rock drummers of the time, I think that John Bonham was in the same league as a Mitch Mitchell or an Ian Pace or even a Bill Ward or an Ainsley Dunbar. He wasn't in the same league as a Barrymore Barlow. He probably wasn't in the same league as Ainsley Dunbar, to be fair. And I think he probably wasn't in the same league as Mitch Mitchell. Phil Collins, who loved John Bonham, I believe is a greater drummer. Even more iconic in terms of his sound, but he possessed greater chops, greater technique. Now, the thing that really gets to me about Bonham is I think his drum parts on the record are wonderful. I really do, right? He was in a band where they had a guitarist that sounded thin and weedy, and they had a vocalist singing up there, with the Angels. And a bass player that wasn't really a bass player, he was a multi-instrumentalist, because of course, there's an argument that they're all bloody overrated in Led Zeppelin. We'll see this as the video commences, except for John Paul Jones. He's underrated. Who was the greatest musician in Led Zeppelin? It's John Paul Jones. He could play everything at an incredible level, right? His bass playing, when you listen to Immigrant Song, those runs up, all that bit, the Black Dog riff, which he wrote on the bass, it's all over the bloody place. But he could play keyboards, he could play mandolins, he could orchestrate for orchestras. The guy was a proper musician, he could read music, he'd been a choir master. John Paul Jones was an incredible musician. John Paul Jones is the best musician in that group. If you go and listen to his solo albums like Thunder Thief later on, you realise that he's a true musician. John Bonham had a great sound and a great way of playing drums, which was derivative, and we can see where he got it from. And he's great, but he is no greater than his peers. That's the truth. And I feel that the elevation of John Bonham to that status overlooks drummers like Tommy Aldrich or Ian Pace or Barrymore Barlow or Clive Bunker. All those drummers at those times were incredible drummers. They just did not. They were in a band where they could be showcased in the way that they could. But all of them that I just mentioned could do a better drum solo. Moby Dick has gone down as this astonishing piece of drumming. I think it's the most tedious drum solo ever put on record. If it's not him fanning around on timpani and doing a few snare drum rudiments, the rest of it is just tumbling triplets for hours and hours on end. He's got one trick. His feet go backwards and forwards, that one bass drum and hi-hats, while he goes billy billy dilly billy 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 billy. Then he plays with his hands a little bit, That's probably the best bit, is when he does the old hand playing. But I don't want to listen to the drums played by hands. I like the drums played by sticks. That's my thing. Brushes, maybe. Hands, you can do it for 5 minutes, you know. But he did it till their hands bled. Well, then he was a fool, wasn't he? Now, we have to be able to have, as we exit this epoch of rock and roll, it will be wise to be able to see the wood, you know, be able to differentiate the wood between the tree. I can't remember what the bloody saying is now. And now my phone, I've got my list on my phone. Who we got after John Bonham? At number 3, even more overrated, Jimmy Page. I've got them both in. Are you going to put Robert in? No. Robert's not overrated. I think Robert gets shtick. His voice changed. He was under incredible amount of pressure. He was an untrained singer under incredible amount of pressure. He got the gig when he was just out of his teens, and his voice changed. I think his voice changed for the better. And I think Robert, towards the end of Zeppelin, was looking for another way of singing, and his sort of love of singers like Ralph Donner and Elvis Presley, he wanted to be able to sing a song rather than just yelping, you know, and I think he has done that. And I think Robert's voice now is beyond compare. You listen to him live now, and I've been in a room playing with him. He opens his mouth, and what comes out is one of the most beautiful sounds under complete control. No, he's actually underrated because he can't sing the bloody high notes that he could sing when he was 20 years old. So what? The experience in that bloke. And it's like Ian Gillan. Ian Gillan cannot sing at all, really. But when you listen to the new Deep Purple albums, he still brings his experience as a singer to be able to tell a story. We should be able to respect that. None of these people are overrated. In fact, I would say they're underrated. But Jimmy Page's genius is not really as a guitar player, I don't think. Right? As a guitarist, he is a great orchestrator of guitar parts on album. All right, he is a good yet derivative folk guitarist. He's listened to Bert Jansch, John Renbourn, and he can play some of that stuff. Nowhere near as good as them, but he's got some of that down. He was an adequate copy of Chuck Berry, which enabled him to access the session scene in the early 60s. Surrounded by virtuoso guitarists like Vic Flick or Big Jim Solomon or John McLaughlin, his peers back then, right, none of those guitarists were able to emulate a Chuck Berry guitar solo. So Jimmy Page was brought in as a young kid, a very privileged young kid, to put down these sort of rock and roll guitar solos when they were needed. He then got access to the session world, and he learned. His great genius was not genius, it was his ability to learn and listen and learn about production. With John Paul Jones's arrangement skills and Jimmy Page's production skills, he was able to utilize the guitar great in a studio. When he's pulled into the Yardbirds to take over from two great guitarists, Eric Clapton, who'd been replaced by Jeff Beck, and then his friend Jeff Beck left and put Jimmy Page in on guitar. I think he was very lucky to get that gig. Of course, originally he was in on bass. And then when that was sorted out, he moved to guitar. And I believe that the sunshine from Jeff Beck particularly onto Jimmy Page. And I think that the first Led Zeppelin album is a better produced exposition of what Jeff Beck was doing on Beckola and Truth. And so we start to paint a picture that isn't quite the sort of rock god sort of thing, is it? No, the reason that Led Zeppelin became great was because Robert Plant took Jimmy over to Wales, and they sat there and went all acoustic here, you know, incredible string band, and brought that into the realm of rock music, and they did it well. And in bringing that in, they were able to square the circle of being a British blues rock guitar group, which of course by 1970-71 was looking a bit sad because, you know, could they really take on the real blues guys who are now appearing and touring around doing the real deal? So there's a lot about Led Zeppelin that has never been discussed. Now in the studio, Jimmy Page's knowledge of the studio meant that he could utilise the guitar to create sounds, and there's some wonderful sounds on guitar, sounds that you never hear live, because live what we have is a guy with his guitar strung too low because it looks cool, playing a Telecaster which is all tinny, turned up loud, and then trying to pull off multiple bloody overdubbed guitar parts live whilst off his head on Jack Daniels and then later on heroin. Anybody who jumps even into the best of the Led Zeppelin live stuff, I always feel it's Jimmy Page letting it down. The rest of the band are killing it, but Jimmy Page is letting it down. That's what I think. Right, this is what I'm saying. I'm just saying, and I love the band. I love the band, but I never go to a live Led Zeppelin. I know people love those bootlegs. I know people love Jimmy Page. I know. But I think he's been pulled into a sort of realm of guitarists that include Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Richie Blackmore, a whole realm of guitar players. And I don't think he's that. It's the same way as Pete Townsend's not that. And we could say Pete Townsend's overrated, and I think he is, but Pete Townsend never lets you down. Jimmy Page will let you down so often. I did a video that was specifically about guitarists, and on that video it wasn't just talk like this one. I brought in a whole bunch of video stuff. I'm not doing that at the moment because of the amount of bloody strikes and reports I've had. I'm trying to be a good boy and just deliver original content which isn't too spicy, although I did invoke brown balls at the start of the video, so that might not help. I can't help it. I'm just one of those blokes who's a troublemaker. That's the way it is, you know. I like to stir it up. You know that. That's why you watch it. You know, I sit down knowing what you want, and you want me. A lot of people are there going, yes, but I've got. What is everyone? You agree with me? I know most of you are, and those who are is because you love Led Zeppelin. This is the lesson. I love all these bands. You can love these bands. Right, let's move on because I've got 2 more to go and I've got 10 minutes left. I can't go over the hour. Right, at number 2, I've got Kirk Hammett. Come on. Kirk Hammett. Right? By the time we get to the 80s, you get these sort of new wave of British heavy metal, and then you get these thrash metal bands coming in, right? And they're pushing the envelope faster, louder, all this stuff. There's a level of virtuosity coming in. Now, if you take the great heroes of Metallica, Diamond Head, which are a band from just up the road, and Brian Tatler is a friend of the channel. He's going to be coming on and doing something soon. He always is. He loves it on here. Brian Tatler's a monster guitar player. Right, he's a monster guitar player, right? The guys that were in Anthrax, monster guitar players, right? Megadeth, you know, Chris Poland and Marty Freeman, monster guitar players. They've all got monster guitar players, right? But Metallica win out. Now, why did Metallica win out? Because they got the songs. They've got the songs. The genius of Metallica is James Hetfield. I tell you this now, and he's a fantastic rhythm guitar player, right? And in the old days, what they didn't have in lead guitar, they had in lead bass. They had the great Cliff Burton, a great bass player, maybe a little bit overrated now, but a great rock bass player and very iconic as he stood the stage, looking as a throwback from some sort of Black Sabbath era. Once Cliff went, Jason Newsted came in, very adequate bass player, and now they've got the fella from Suicidal Tendencies. I could never say his name. Robert Diddley-Dilio. And he's a fantastic bass player. So that bass playing's covered. Lars Ulrich, why is he not on the list? I think because everyone criticises him too much. Everyone just thinks he's rubbish, and I actually think he's better. I would say he's about right. You know, people rate Lars right. But Kirk Hammett sits there, for my money, way worse than Lars Ulrich, right? And there he is, he stands there on stage, playing his guitar solos, right? He's had lessons with Joe Satriani, right? And I find it the most lackluster, lacking in feel, missing the notes, missing the bends, no tone, right? I find it absolutely awful. And it doesn't make sense. Because all the other bands at that time had great guitar players. Even Guns N' Roses has got Slash. Kirk Hammett is not that. Now, why has he been able to survive? I think it's because of this. James Hetfield brings the virtuosity. The riffing is incredible. The guitar solos are playable. And Kirk Hammett's sort of amateurish sound that he has on guitar has been an enabler for beginning guitarists. Now there's an idea for you. And those guitarists, once they have learned the Kirk Hammett solos, then want to go, I can play a Kirk Hammett solo, and be all proud. And perhaps that has stopped the tirade of reality being pointed out. My favourite guitar playing by him is on the Lola album, where he comes in all sort of a bit Neil Youngian all over the place. Of course, he never descends to the depths of Neil Young as a guitar player. Obviously, he's not that bad. But my God, is Kirk Hammett overrated? Right? Now, here I am saying that, and I'm sure everyone will chime in and go, yeah, he's a terrible guitar player. And he's a terrible guitar player. But I feel sorry for him. But why should I? He's a multi-millionaire. It's not going to hurt him, is it? Nah, it's not going to hurt him. He probably won't even know about it, will he? So I feel all right. And of course, now we move with the last 5 minutes of this video onto the number one. And the reason why he's here and what's promoted this video is because of recent events. What are those recent events? Of course, it's Rush coming back with Annika on drums. For years, all of us drummers who know what we're talking about have been going, yeah, Neil Peart, he's a good drummer. He comes up with good drum parts in Rush. Yeah, he does do that. But, he hasn't got the chops that you think, He's like, there's loads of drummers in the world, loads of session drummers, semi-pro drummers that can have better chops than Neil. Even Neil knew this. That's why he went and got lessons. Once he did the Buddy Rich Day and he saw Simon Phillips and all those guys, he realised that he needed to do some bloody work. Even he knew it because he was a drummer. Us drummers know that Neil Peart is not the greatest drummer in the world. He's not the greatest rock drummer. He's not the greatest prog drummer. He's the greatest drummer in Rush, although he was, but he is now no longer. Right? Because Rush have reformed and they've got Annika in. A girl. A girl has come in and shown the world how to play the drums properly. And suddenly Rush sound 100 times better. Let's be honest. Go back and check some of those bootlegs out. There was a certain energy back in 75, 76, 77 that Rush had, without a doubt, right? Which is incredible. And Neil Peart was, play the drum parts he created. That's what you don't understand, Andy. Annika might have more chops and more feel and be able to do more on the drums, and she might be even better looking, but that's beside the point. Neil came up with those drum parts. Well, what the hell's going to happen when Annika starts coming up with those drum parts? What happens if Annika does it again? Is Annika able to come out with incredible drum parts? Well, those of you who don't know her beforehand, and we do. No, that was sort of her thing, wasn't it? She was coming out with these incredible drum tracks that were just blowing everybody away. Original, virtuoso. I love her. It's incredible because she's brought it home. So there she is on stage proving the point. What do the Rush fans do? What they do is they turn it around by applauding every time she does a fill. Oh my God, Annika, you did one of Neil's fills. You are amazing if you could pull off these fills. No, Annika can do this in her sleep. The only problem she had was learning about 4 hours of bloody material. Right? Having to differentiate Necromancer from Baitor the Snow Dog. For us aficionados, we know that Baitor the Snow Dog is the one with the dog barking in, the electronic dog barking. Necromancer is the one with the deep voice, isn't it? We know the difference, but musically, I don't know. I mean, it's all much of a muchness, isn't it? Imagine that all coming up, but Annika can do it, because Annika can read music, she's classically trained. She's way better. Now, is Annika a superhuman drummer on the scene at the moment? No, there's hundreds of Annikas. There's hundreds of them. Hundreds? No, there isn't, Andy. You're lying. They had to search the world to find someone who could play those parts better than Neil. No, they didn't. They didn't. There's millions, there's thousands of them, Rush fans. Thousands and millions and thousands of drummers that could have done it. Matt Gaskell would have killed it from Animals as Leaders, for example. Portnoy would have killed it, wouldn't he? There's a billion drummers out there that could have done it. All those jazz rock fusion guys, all those guys that, have got feel and swing and a ton of chops, blazing double bass drums, all these insane metal drummers that are out there. Millions and millions and millions and millions also say, Neil, get back in the queue. Well, where shall I stand? I was at the front of this queue, the greatest rock drummers of all time. No, back. There he is. He's going back. And there he is having to slot in behind some third-rate rock drummer in some metal band that's got a following of about 20,000 people. That's the truth. He's the most overrated musician in the history of music. But you guys, you want to turn him into a saint. Saint Neil. You shouldn't be picking on him, Andy. He's dead. Yes, I shouldn't. But I have. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video. It's now over. You can go now, everybody. Like, subscribe, do all the things you can do. And I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.